Shut up, compressor. Hey everyone, Matt here with Dukes Models, and welcome back to the Tamiya P-47M build. So I've been giving the HK-B17 entirely too much attention over the past couple days, and I figured it's about time to get back to the jug. So we're going to get started with getting the throttle and all the levers sorted out, and that's why you have this weird-ass looking texture here. This is a magnetic base that I'm going to use to basically hold this little bit of sweetness still while I work on it. So that basically guarantees it's not going to go anywhere. Now, most of the throttle levers on the P-47 are your standard fare of like a little shaft and a knob on it. This one, though, has a big old handle lever, and so for that, I want to be able to hold this still while I get in here with the tweezers and put that on. And for that, I've got this little chunk of styrene. Just going to go right on there like that. And I want to make sure that it's... All right. Put a little bit of sanding on it first so we can get it a bit flatter. Okay, that's a little bit better. And then what I'm going to do is just put a little tiny dollop of CA on the end of this. So, a little bit going there. And then come in here. And just plop it right down like that. It's literally all we're doing with that guy. So we can leave that one alone now and move on to the other fun ones. Let's move the magnet out of the way. Now these other ones, I've actually got basically 2 attempts. So I've got the Aries levers, which are up here. As you can see, these things are tiny. And like all PE, they are flat, which is annoying. So I'm going to attempt to build these up with CA. I could snip these off and try the little ceramic spheres that I did on the B-17, but honestly, those are a huge pain in the ass to work with something flat like this photo etch lever. So I think I'll have a better chance just shaping them. And my second chance with these comes by way of an Edward PE set, and you can see these little 101 bits down here are the ones that would be getting the super glue ball treatment on the end here. Let's go ahead and give the Aries ones a shot first. I don't think they're... Let's see if you put them right side by side. I mean, they're not quite as detailed, but honestly, it's so close it doesn't really matter. So, start with one, go on from there, right? Okay, I think those are actually maybe looking pretty good. Now let's see about the Edward ones. One thing about the photo etch is it's so flashy in the light. it's hard to tell how these are doing. Okay, next up, it's time to go ahead and ghetto prime these with some Vallejo glossy black. The goal ultimately is to paint the stocks this wonderful ammo steel color, but I find it goes better over something else. So, glossy black it is. Okay, there's one down. Where we get to see how much body the CA actually built up. Looks like it should be enough. So on this one, it looks like I've got these two inside here look pretty decent. This one on the outside looks kind of derpy, but they'll all do the job if they need to. Now these guys, let's see how they are. So all of those look pretty decent. Okay, next we're going to go ahead and add the UV curing glue to do the glossed up gauges on this thing. So we've got our glue right there. Now, the nice thing about this stuff is that it levels out quite nicely. As you work. But it does take a steady hand, and breathing is fun while you do this. All right, we're almost there. Dear God. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move that over here where I can keep it kind of hidden. And we're going to go ahead and cook these that are already in place. Then we're going to go ahead and do these three that are at sort of an incline. All right. Come back in here. The last little bit taken care of. This I'm gonna switch up my grip just a little bit so I can get in there. I think I might add just a little bit one of these other ones too. There we go. Okay, that's looking good. Back over there one more time. So, after that, here we are with the clear gauges. Looking quite lovely. And they also have a little bit of a lensing effect, so they make the gauges a little bit more prominent. Nothing super crazy. And unfortunately, because you get this nice shiny look head on when they're in the cockpit, you're not really going to get as much of it, but you'll get a little bit. So I've also got this one little thing over here that I want to tackle as well. Bring this guy back for one last hurrah. Okay, so we've got that covered. One more blast of light. Ta-da. And so with that, I think we've got things in a good place, and I think hopefully the levers are dry enough now that we can come back around and do some silver on them. All right, time to paint things a little bit silver. Or steel, I should say. Not bad. Stick that over there. Let's get the Edward ones, and then we'll do the big tall lever. I think these are working out marginally better than the Aries ones, but they all seem to be okay. Unfortunately, I only need 3. Last thing, and then I really need to dump this memory card onto the computer because it's yelling at me. Okay. With that, I am going to pause for a few minutes and go empty this card into the computer, delete some files, and we'll be back. Okay, next up, we need to put some clear red in here. The good thing about this being on black is if you make a little mistake, it's not the end of the world. Come on, one more. There we go. All right, I've got those done up in clear red. I need to add a few to the instrument panel. I also need to add a few tiny, tiny little bits of green. Clear green, that is. I think that's where they need to go. All right. Now for these clears, I prefer to use the new AK Real Colors. They seem to behave a bit better for this kind of dotting stuff than the Tamiya does. They don't go quite as stringy and messy. Now, who wants to glue in some throttle levers? I know it's terrifying the shit out of me. The fun thing is going to be how do you cut these without them going everywhere? I guess the answer is very carefully. All right, we're just going to have to hope. Hope is not a good strategy. Oh, goodness. I know, I should put them in a bag or something like that. It's a huge pain in the ass. Where the hell did that one go? Any idea? Did you see it? I didn't see it. There we go, that's one way to keep it. Okay, so I'm getting this right. This is gonna be a fucking nightmare. Just like it always is. Now we got one in. Oh boy. Oh God, this is nerve-wracking. Jesus. All right, there we go. to make some of these things colorful. It should be black, but I think black might be a bit too standoutish. We're going to go for dark gray instead, which will also completely vanish, but hopefully if somebody gets in there and looks close, they will see it. Okay, now for the main lever, I'm going to go with a semi-matte aluminum from Vallejo Model Color. Hopefully will be a bit duller of a color than the ammo steel is. Okay, so there is the throttle quadrant, all done up. We just have a few tiny more things to do before we can actually close up this cockpit. Sweet. Okay, so onto the next basket of madness. I'm gluing lead wire into the back of the instrument panel. Why? Well, because on the P-47, there oftentimes was not an instrument combing, or there oftentimes was not an instrument panel combing, and so the gauge wiring could be seen as something of a rat's nest behind the instrument panel. And on the Tamiya kit, and just like on the trumpeter kit, larger scale, you can see down in there through the windscreen. So figure why not? And lead wire works really well for this purpose because it can bend like nobody's business. So you don't have to worry about how well you, or how aligned you glue them in there or anything like that. You can just kind of come in and tweak things afterwards as you need to. Now, to make sure that these pop a little bit, I'm going to be painting them sort of an off-white color. You do see a lot of white wiring in U.S. Army Air Force aircraft around this time. I was actually just looking at some B-17 pictures with it earlier. Okay, there's our crazy rat's nest of wiring coming out of the back of the instrument panel. Now, I'm going thicker than I would normally be inclined to because every time I go thinner, it disappears in the instrument panel, and it's very tough to see. So I figure the slightly fatter, slightly overscale wires will pop a little bit more. Again, though, still a little tiny detail. So let these set up for a few minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll paint them. All right, time to paint some shit white. Who's with me? And one thing I'm curious to test in the coming months is that new AK third generation acrylics, or whatever they call them. Hopefully having something else as a brush option aside from Vallejo would be in the cards. one fun thing about this is navigating all these different little wires. Maybe I should have painted them before I installed them. Yeah, no deal. Yeah, those definitely stand out quite a bit more than when they're black or gray. Pause here because I think you get the idea, and there's still a bit more ground to cover.